Over the decades, Formula One has seen countless teams roll in with dreams of glory, only to find out that success at the pinnacle of motorsport is anything but easy or cheap. Just getting on the grid demands a colossal investment, often upwards of $100 million just to enter, with ongoing annual costs often soaring past $200 million per a competitive team. Yet, time and time again, ambitious entrepreneurs and corporations have taken the plunge, hoping to carve out their own place among the giants like Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren, who have decades of experience and resources at their disposal. But not every team has had a storybook journey. For some, the ride was bumpy from the start and ended in disaster before they could even get their bearings. Today, we're diving into the tales of the most troubled and unsuccessful teams in F1 history. Buckle up, this is going to be a wild ride. Andrea Moda, if you know anything about Formula One, that name alone might make you shake your head. This team was the definition of chaos and mismanagement. Andrea Sassetti, an Italian shoe designer with big dreams but little understanding of motorsport, decided to buy the remnants of the Coloni team in 1992. What could go wrong, right? Well, everything. From the get-go, Andrea Moda was a mess. The team's budget was estimated to be around $5 million. A laughably small sum compared to the hundreds of millions needed even back then. The cars were slapped together on a shoestring budget, and it showed. Reliability? Non-existent. In their debut season, Andrea Moda failed to qualify for 10 out of the 13 races they attempted. The South African Grand Prix, disqualified for not meeting the technical standards. Talk about embarrassing. Their best finish was 19th place, which speaks volumes about their struggles. Off the track, things weren't any better. Sassetti found himself tangled in legal troubles, from unpaid bills to contractual disputes, leading to his arrest at the Belgian Grand Prix. The drivers? Roberto Morena and Perry McCarthy? They were caught in the middle of this mess, with McCarthy even being sent out for qualifying on wet tires in dry conditions, just to ensure he didn't qualify. Andrea Moda's short stint in F1 was marked by one calamity after another, earning them the title of one of the most disastrous teams in sports history. Pacific Racing started off as the little team that could, until it couldn't. Founded by Keith Wiggins, they had a decent track record in the junior formulas like Formula Ford and Formula 3000, where they had won multiple championships. Success there made them think they were ready for the big leagues. But when they stepped into F1 in 1994, reality hit hard. With a budget of around $17 million, far below the $50 million or more needed to be competitive, they struggled to develop a car that could even keep up with the backmarkers. The Pacific PR01 was an underdeveloped disaster, constantly outpaced by the competition. The car was built with a custom Limor engine, which was underpowered compared to the factory engines used by top teams. In their first season, Pacific failed to qualify for 11 out of the 16 races and never finished higher than 11th. The problems kept piling up. With no money for proper testing or development, the team was stuck with a car that was more suited to a museum than a racetrack. Consistent failures to qualify and a string of retirements told the story. After 2 agonizing seasons, with a total of just 7 race finishes out of 33 starts, Pacific Racing finally threw in the towel and retreated to the lower formulas, where they had once thrived. Their short, painful journey in F1 is a stark reminder of just how tough it is to make the leap to the top tier of motorsport. Fordy Corsay's story is one of ambition colliding head-on with reality. Guido Fordy, backed by Brazilian sponsor Abilio Diniz, had high hopes when they entered F1 in 1995. They thought that their experience in Formula 3000, where they were consistently competitive, would carry over to the big leagues. Spoiler alert, it didn't. The FGO1 car was slow, painfully slow, with a Ford Cosworth ED engine that was down on power compared to the more modern engines used by their rivals. It was a moving chicane, constantly being lapped by the frontrunners. The car's weight, over 100 kgs heavier than most of the competition, further hampered its performance. But the problems didn't stop at the car speed, or lack of. Fordy Corsay was bleeding money, with a budget that started around $20 million, but dwindled quickly. By mid-1996, the team's financial woes only deepened, and they resorted to fielding pay drivers who bring sponsorship money but often lack competitive experience, to keep afloat. They managed to finish a few races, but it was more a case of survival than success. The team's financial troubles came to a head in 1996, when they were unable to pay for their Ford engines, leading to their withdrawal from the German Grand Prix and eventual collapse after just 27 Grand Prix. Fordy Corsay's brief foray into F1 is a cautionary tale about the importance of financial stability and technical prowess in a sport where even the smallest weakness can be fatal. Life racing engines came into F1 with big dreams and a revolutionary idea. Franco Rocci, a former Ferrari engineer, thought that his W12 engine would be a game changer. Instead, it turned out to be one of the biggest flops in F1 history. The W12 engine was supposed to be innovative, with 12 cylinders in a W configuration, but it barely managed 400 horsepower, a figure that was nearly half of what the frontrunners were putting out with their V10 and V8 engines. This left the Life L190 car hopelessly outpaced, often trailing the field by 30 seconds or more in qualifying. Gary Brabham, the unfortunate driver stuck behind the wheel, faced an impossible task. He failed to qualify for the first 2 races in 1990, and the team's second driver, Bruno Giacomelli, fared no better, failing to qualify for all 12 races he attempted. The car couldn't even complete a single race distance in practice sessions due to frequent mechanical failures, making it clear that Life Racing had bitten off more than they could chew. After a year of trying to make something out of nothing, Life Racing's journey ended in ignominy, and the W12 engine was relegated to the annals of F1 failures. It was a classic case of big ideas meeting harsh realities, a sobering reminder that innovation alone is not enough to succeed in F1. MasterCard Lola's entry into F1 in 1997 is a textbook example of how not to start a team. Backed by a major sponsor in MasterCard, the team was supposed to be a serious contender. They had ambitious plans to enter F1 with a $20 million budget raised through a unique fan sponsorship program. But with deadlines looming and resources stretched thin, the project was rushed. The result? A car, the Lola T97/30, that was woefully unprepared for the rigors of F1. From the first race, it was clear that Lola was in way over their heads. The T97/30 was significantly slower than any other car on the grid, with the qualifying time at the Australian Grand Prix a staggering 11 seconds off the pole time. The lack of proper development, combined with a Ford Zetec R-V8 engine that was underpowered and unreliable, meant they were nowhere near competitive. After just one race, MasterCard pulled the plug, and Lola was out of F1. The team never managed to score a point or even finish a race, as they withdrew before the second Grand Prix. Their brief disaster stint is a stark reminder of what happens when ambition outpaces preparation, and when financial constraints dictate rushed and ill-considered decisions. Simtek entered F1 in 1994 with high hopes and big dreams. Founded by Nick Wirth, they had cutting-edge designs and technical backing from BMW. They were woefully underfunded. The team's first season was a mix of unfulfilled potential and heartbreak. Their budget was around $6 million, a pittance compared to the $100 million budgets of the top teams. This lack of funding led to reliability issues, with the Simtek S941 car frequently suffering from mechanical failures. The tragic death of rookie driver Roland Ratzenberger during the qualifying for the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix cast a dark shadow over the team. Despite their determination to keep going, the tragedy and ongoing financial difficulties took their toll. Simtek managed to finish a few races, but they were often outlapped multiple times, struggling to keep up with the faster cars in the grid. By mid-1995, with mounting debts and unpaid bills totaling over $7 million, Simtek was forced to shut down. They had only scored a single point in their brief existence, finishing 9th at the 1994 Spanish Grand Prix. Their short time in F1 is remembered more for the loss of life than any racing achievements, a somber reminder of the dangers and challenges in the sport. Hispania Racing Team entered Formula 1 in 2010 with hopes of making a mark as part of F1's push to bring in new teams. But from the start, it was clear that HRT was in trouble. Their car, developed by Dallara, wasn't even ready for pre-season testing, and their first run was during the season opener in Bahrain. It was slow, underdeveloped, and always at the back of the grid. With a budget of just $45 million, significantly less than the top teams, they were doomed from the start. Financial issues plagued the team from day one, with constant changes in ownership and management only adding to their instability. In their first season, HRT failed to qualify within 107% of the pole time on multiple occasions, meaning they weren't even allowed to start the race. Over 3 seasons, HRT never scored a single point, with their best finish being 13th place at the 2010 Korean Grand Prix. By the end of 2012, the team was out of money and out of options, leading to their exit from the sport. HRT's story is a stark reminder of just how tough it is to survive in the cutthroat world of Formula 1, where even the smallest teams need substantial resources to compete. Coloni's time in Formula 1 is a tale of persistence in the face of unrelenting struggle. Founded by Enzo Coloni, the team entered F1 in 1987, but from the start, they were up against it. Financial constraints meant they were always on the back foot, with budgets often less than $10 million, compared to the $50 million needed to be competitive. Their uncompetitive cars, like the Coloni FC187 and FC188, frequently failed to qualify for races, and when they did, they were often let multiple times. A brief partnership with Subaru in 1990, where the team used the Subaru 1235 engine, only made things worse. The engine was underpowered and unreliable, leading to a disastrous end to the partnership after just one race. By 1991, with no improvement in sight, Enzo Coloni sold a majority stake in the team to Italian businessman Andrea Sassetti, who would go on to form the infamous Andrea Moda. Coloni's F1 journey ended quietly, with their final races marked by continued failure to qualify and a complete lack of competitiveness. Their story is one of determination, but also of the harsh realities of Formula One, where even the most persistent efforts can be undone by lack of resources and technical expertise. Super Aguri burst onto the F1 scene in 2006 as the underdog everyone wanted to root for. Backed by Honda and led by former F1 driver Aguri Suzuki, the team was created to give Japanese driver Takuma Sato a seat in F1 after he was dropped by Honda's works team. Despite starting with limited resources, an estimated $50 million budget, much of which was tied up in old Honda parts, Super Aguri quickly became a fan favorite, especially after Sato's incredible performance at the 2007 Canadian Grand Prix, where he overtook reigning world champion Fernando Alonso to finish 6th, but the financial strain of competing at the highest level quickly caught up with him. Despite Honda's backing, Super Aguri struggled to secure sufficient sponsorship and funding to stay competitive. In 2008, their financial situation became untenable, with the team missing payments to suppliers and staff. Aguri Suzuki tried to sell the team, but when a potential buyer backed out at the last minute, Super Aguri was left with no choice but to withdraw from the championship after just 4 races. Their short-spirited time in F1 is a poignant reminder of how quickly dreams can fade in the brutal world of motorsport. Aside from the more famous failures, Formula One has seen several other teams that never quite made the grade. US F1, for example, was a high-profile American project that generated a lot of buzz, but never made it to the grid. Despite ambitious plans and a $30 million budget, the team couldn't secure the necessary funding and resources to participate, folding before they even had the chance to compete. Mach Engineering in the 1970s also struggled with technical and financial difficulties, never managing to compete effectively. Their story, like many others, serves as a reminder of the brutal nature of F1, where even the best intentions can fall apart without the right support. They attempted to race in the 1974 season, but failed to qualify for any races, with their best attempt being 10 seconds off the qualifying pace. Common themes among these failures include lack of sufficient funding, poor management, and unrealistic expectations. In the highly competitive world of F1, even minor missteps can lead to rapid downfall. These team struggles reflect the harsh realities of the sport, where success requires a combination of financial stability, technical expertise, and strategic planning. Looking back at these stories, it's clear that success in Formula One takes more than just speed and ambition. It's a delicate balance of money, technical know-how, and smart management. The failures of these teams teach us valuable lessons about how unforgiving the sport can be. Every detail matters. One wrong move can spell disaster. These tales of struggle and collapse are part of the rich history of F1, showing just how tough it is to make it in the world's most demanding motorsport.